The 7 Most Important Paintings by Edvard Munch.
Number 7. Anxiety. 1894. In 1894 AD, Edvard Munch painted Anxiety, a work in which he captured the feeling of collective anguish with a visual intensity that only he could achieve. The painting is an extension of the emotional universe developed in the scream, but in this case, the despair is not found in a single individual, but in a group of figures who seem to share a state of deep restlessness. This piece is a manifestation of the spirit of the 19th century, in which modernity brought with it both advances and a sense of alienation and existential crisis. Munch, influenced by his personal experiences and his perception of the world, captured this feeling with an unmatched visual force. The work presents a group of people walking towards the viewer, their faces marked by an inexplicable anguish. Their empty eyes and rigid expressions suggest an inner despair, as if they all share the same grim fate. The sky, dyed a fiery red, creates a sense of suffocation and imminent threat, while the undulating landscape reinforces the feeling of disorientation. The closed composition and repetition of faces suggest the uniformity of despair, showing how fear and anxiety can be collective feelings, not just individual ones. This painting is one of the most striking depictions of existential unrest in Munch's oeuvre, preempting many of the concerns that would define 20th century art. The artist's ability to synthesize abstract feelings into concrete images positions him as one of the key figures of symbolism and expressionism. Through Anxiety, Munch left a lasting impression on how art can capture universal emotions with extraordinary simplicity and depth, establishing an intimate connection with the viewer's psyche. Number 6. Naked Girl, Puberty. From 1894 to 1895. Between 1894 and 1895 AD, Edvard Munch created Puberty, a work that addresses the transition between childhood and adulthood with a rawness and sincerity that has made it one of his most disturbing paintings. This piece belongs to a period in which the artist was exploring themes related to psychological development and emotional fragility, inspired by his own life and the changes he observed in society. In Puberty, Munch depicts a young woman sitting on the edge of a bed, her body naked and an expression that mixes uncertainty and fear. The work is a visual testimony of the emotional awakening and anxiety that accompanies the arrival of adolescence. One of the most striking aspects of the painting is the way light and shadow interact with the young woman's figure. The dark background and illuminated face create a dramatic contrast that accentuates the psychological tension of the scene. Furthermore, the presence of an ominous shadow projected on the wall reinforces the feeling of unease, as if representing the protagonist's inner fears or the surveillance of an invisible presence. The way Munch treats the young woman's body, without idealization or eroticization, contributes to the feeling of vulnerability and isolation, making this work one of the most direct and heartbreaking in its exploration of human development. Within Munch's career, Puberty is a key work, as it encapsulates many of the recurring themes in his work: loneliness, fear, and transformation. His psychological approach and expressive style influenced generations of artists who sought to represent the complexity of the human experience beyond physical appearance. The emotional tension conveyed by the painting continues to resonate today, making it a timeless piece that invites introspection and reflection on moments of change in life. Number 5. Love and Pain, Vampire. From 1893 to 1895. In the context of late 19th century European art, marked by a strong exploration of the human psyche and a move away from idealized representations of reality, Edvard Munch developed a deeply introspective visual language full of symbolism. Love and Pain, later known as Vampire, is one of the most enigmatic and representative pieces of this stage in his career. The work shows a red-haired woman leaning her face on the neck of a dejected man, in a scene of intimacy that has been interpreted in multiple ways. Although the original title alluded to an emotional relationship marked by suffering, the subsequent name, Vampire, transformed its meaning into something more sinister and supernatural. The influence of Munch's emotional conflicts, as well as his vision of human relationships as a space of passion and destruction, is evident in the expressive force of the painting. Technically, Munch employs a loose brushstroke and a restricted but highly symbolic range of colors. The reddish hue of the woman's hair contrasts with the paleness of the man's skin, creating a sense of contrast between life and death. The blurred contours and visible brushstrokes reinforce the idea of a world where emotions blur between reality and dream. The technique of Impressionism and Post-Impressionism influenced his use of color and light, but Munch went further, incorporating a drama that anticipated 20th-century Expressionism, a movement that would find a source of inspiration in his work. This painting not only marked a milestone in his artistic evolution, but also consolidated his reputation as a painter capable of rendering existential torment in images of great intensity. His obsession with human fragility and love as an inexhaustible source of anguish is a recurring theme in his work. The transformation of the title of the work, from Love and Pain to Vampire, is testimony to how the public's reception can modify the perception of a painting. The image, which at first evoked the embrace of a couple trapped in a self-destructive relationship, became an icon of the soul-devouring femme fatale, a recurring figure in late 19th century literature and art. Number 4. The Dance of Life. From 1899 to 1900. At the end of the 19th century, Edvard Munch was at the height of his artistic maturity, developing a pictorial language full of symbolism and exploring in greater depth the themes that would define his work. The Dance of Life is a clear example of his obsession with the human condition, the passing of time, and the inevitable transformation of emotions. The scene, set on a moonlit night by the sea, features several couples dancing, but the focus of the composition is on three female figures representing different stages of a woman's life. Munch uses this narrative device to condense the fleeting nature of existence into a single image, in a context where love and loneliness are inevitably intertwined. On a technical level, the work stands out for its expressive lines and the almost theatrical arrangement of the characters. The vibrant colors, predominantly red and yellow, contrast with the dark tones that surround the dancers, creating a dreamlike atmosphere. The central figure, a woman dressed in red who seems to merge with her dance partner, symbolizes passion and loving plenitude. To her left, a woman in white, with a serene and distant expression, represents innocence and youth. On the far right, a woman dressed in black with a melancholic face embodies old age and resignation. This compositional structure gives the work a cyclical character, suggesting that life passes in a constant movement of encounters and farewells. The Dance of Life is part of the series, The Frieze of Life, a set of works in which Munch expressed his vision of human existence as a succession of moments marked by desire, anguish, and death. His interest in psychology, influenced by the thought of philosophers such as Friedrich Nietzsche and the emerging psychoanalytic theories of the 19th century, led him to represent emotions in a way that transcended visible reality. This painting, in particular, became one of his most representative works, as it encapsulates his tragic and passionate look at human destiny. The repetition of the moon in several of his works suggests a cyclical and eternal element, reinforcing the idea that the dance of life never stops. Number 3. The Sick Child. from 1885 to 1886. In the context of late 19th century Norway, marked by a transition between tradition and modernity, Edvard Munch began to intensely explore his childhood memories and the feelings of loss that accompanied him throughout his life. The Sick Child is one of his first masterpieces and one of his most personal, as it is inspired by the death of his sister Sophie from tuberculosis when he was only 14 years old. The painting is a testimony to the pain of loss, a recurring theme in his work, and a turning point in his artistic development, as it represents a distancing from academic painting and an approach to the subjective exploration of reality. The technique used in this work is of great importance in his career. Munch uses loose, fragmented brushstrokes, with an almost rough texture that reflects the fragility of the moment depicted. The muted colors and sober composition reinforce the feeling of grief and hopelessness. The central figure, a pale-skinned girl with an absent gaze, seems to cling to life while an older woman, possibly her mother, bows her head in a gesture of resignation. The scene is not only a representation of illness, but also of human helplessness in the face of death, a theme that Munch would explore repeatedly in his later works. This painting was met with harsh criticism when it was first presented, due to its unconventional style and overwhelming emotional charge. However, over time, it became one of his most valued works, precisely because of its ability to convey pain with raw, unpretentious sincerity. The Sick Child marked a before and after in Munch's career, consolidating him as an artist who was not afraid to capture the deepest and most traumatic emotions on his canvases. The artist's insistence on revisiting this scene in multiple versions throughout his life shows that, beyond being an artistic theme, it was an emotional wound that never fully healed. Number 2. Madonna. From 1894 to 1895. Within Edvard Munch's oeuvre, Madonna occupies a special place, not only for its technical execution, but for its powerful symbolic charge and its reinterpretation of one of the most iconic images of Christian art. Created between 1894 and 1895, at the height of the symbolism movement, this work challenges the traditional representation of the Virgin Mary, replacing idealized purity with a disturbing and sensual vision of the sacred. At a time when Victorian morality imposed strict rules on the body and sexuality, Munch introduces an image of the woman that is at once divine and carnal, mystical and erotic, reflecting his ambiguous vision of femininity. Technically, Madonna is a testament to Munch's masterful use of color and composition. The female figure, in a trance-like state, is immersed in a dark, undefined background that emphasizes her ethereal presence. The curve of her body, her bent face and her ecstatic expression evoke a moment of ecstasy that challenges the boundaries between devotion and desire. The reddish tones surrounding her figure and the irregular halo reinforce the idea of an ambiguous sacredness, where sensuality is not excluded but integrated into the divine. In some lithographic versions of the work, Munch adds a provocative detail, a small fetus in the corner, reinforcing the duality between creation and death, birth and sacrifice. The importance of Madonna in Munch's career lies in its ability to subvert established iconographies, anticipating debates about sexuality and spirituality that would gain momentum in the 20th century. The work was received with scandal at the time, reflecting the clash between tradition and modernity. However, its impact transcended initial criticism and became one of the most representative pieces of his exploration of human psychology. The combination of the sacred and the carnal in Madonna not only challenged the values of its time, but remains a reminder of the complexity of desire and devotion in the human experience. Number 1. The Scream. 1893. At the end of the 19th century, the world was undergoing a profound transformation. The Industrial Revolution had radically changed daily life. Cities were growing at an uncontrolled pace, and European society was torn between technological progress and growing existential anxiety. Against this backdrop of change and tension, Edvard Munch, a Norwegian artist influenced by symbolism and post-impressionism, captured one of the most haunting and memorable images in the history of art in the scream. Created in 1893, the work reflects the profound anxiety of human beings in a world that was becoming increasingly uncertain. Inspired by a personal experience in which he felt an endless scream piercing through nature, Munch transferred this emotion to canvas with raw and striking expressionism. Technically, the scream is a revolutionary work. Its composition, with undulating lines and a vibrant but disturbing use of color, breaks with the traditional conventions of academic painting. The incandescent red sky, the distorted landscape, and the central figure with his face in absolute panic create a sense of disturbance that transcends time. Munch used the technique of tempera and pastel on cardboard, achieving a loose and expressive stroke that emphasizes the feeling of anguish. His style, which anticipates 20th century expressionism, shows a profound disdain for realistic representation, prioritizing emotion over form. The repetition of this image in various versions and techniques, oil, lithography, and pastel, demonstrates the artist's obsession with this motif, making it a universal symbol of despair. In Munch's career, the scream represents a turning point. Its exploration of psychological states and its departure from traditional beauty paved the way for later movements such as German Expressionism. The work has been the subject of countless interpretations and analysis, from psychoanalytic studies to references in popular culture. Stolen on more than one occasion and recovered after complex investigations, its history has only helped to consolidate its mythical aura. Like a persistent echo of human anguish, the scream continues to provoke in viewers a visceral response that few paintings in the history of art have achieved. Thank you for watching our video. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Give it a like, comment your thoughts, and share this video with your friends and family.